What's going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company with a Gammarus, scud, freshwater shrimp, whatever you want to call it. I posted something on the community tab about a month ago, and I was taking a bunch of weeds out of my cabin lake. And when we would take it, we took a paddleboard out and we'd load all these weeds on it, and then we'd bring it to the beach and we'd wheelbarrow them up into the woods. And I found when we would clear off the paddleboard, all of this life was left there. I saw a ton of, little minnows, bullheads, really tiny catfish, but I saw a ton of dragonfly larvae and scuds or freshwater shrimp. And the biggest ones I saw were probably like a size 16, maybe even an 18. But what I'm going to tie today, this is a size 14, 1160 Daiichi, just a clinking hammer. There's a ton of different hooks that you can use for this, but I just really like the clinking hammer. I like the bend in this. So for the legs on this, I just used gray ostrich. For the body, I've got nymph skin. This is smoke, which is a perfect color because everything I was seeing was either like a pale gray or a really, either kind of like a darkish olive or a really pale olive. It was really just those three shades of stuff that I was seeing. I've got some 015 wire in there, this red. So I had to figure out how to add weight to this. And so I had to actually order these because I didn't have any small tungsten beads like this. The smallest I had was 1/8 inch. These are 3/32 Firehole and True Blood. And you can kind of just see that red through there. I went back and forth, and I'll show you at the end a couple different ones. But I wanted just a little bit of red to show. I didn't want that red to be kind of like a hot spot or anything like that. To build this body, I used 140 white. And the main thread that I used when I was tying was 70 denier in gray brown. The ribbing on this is just UTC monofilament thread. And then just to add, the gloss, and you add this, this is just bone dry. It helps just kind of penetrate right into the latex just so you can see through the latex better. Junior Fishing Company, little Gammarus scud shrimp today. Let's tie it up. Alright, so before I start tying, before I even put any thread on, I just wanted to show you kind of what the underbody of this scud looks like. And so I've got on both sides of these beads, I've got just 0.05 lead wire, and these are the 3/32 True Blood Firehole tungsten beads. I wanted to add as much weight as I could because I'm going to be jigging this. So I'm going to get this body built up and we'll tie it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, so I built this body up with this white, and then I made quite a few wraps over it. You got to be kind of careful when you're building one of these bodies, because you also have to remember that you're going to put all of these materials and stuff on too, which is going to add some bulk to it. So you don't want to build it up too much. So I'm going to put my mono down first, and at the end of this video I'm going to show you another version of this bait that I couldn't decide which one I liked better, and I want you to help me decide, because I'm putting mono down, and on a couple of the other ones I made I put gray small UTC wire, and so I couldn't decide which one I wanted to use for the video, so I just went traditional with the mono. So the next thing I'm going to put down are these are going to be my legs. I'm just going to tie that in. And the latex is gonna kind of cover up all of these scraggly pieces, so I really don't have to worry about getting it all flat and even and stuff like that. I just want to make sure that it gets far enough back, and you just got to wrap carefully. And the last thing I'm going to put down is my latex, or my nymph skin in smoke. And I've just kind of trimmed out a little bit of a point on that, and I can kind of get like 2 wraps, and this stuff just sticks. So I'm going to stretch it out a little bit and just get it down about as far as I want. You can a lot of people go really deep on these kind of scud patterns or shrimp. This is supposed to be like a freshwater shrimp, so I guess that's what I should say. And then I'm just going to bring my thread all the way up. And I'm going to just get my hook kind of back here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to half hitch right at the eye, just so my thread doesn't jump all over the place. And I can start wrapping my nymph skin. I'm just going to get my thread out of the way. And what I really just want is to kind of keep this pretty tight. And I'm not really too worried about having like super evenly spaced out wraps. I kind of prefer it to look a little wonky. There's always kind of a sweet spot when you're wrapping these, and it makes it a little bit trickier when I'm wrapping over these beads. You can kind of just wrap. I'm keeping this really tight because this bait is going to be plenty. I'm going to kind of just skip over that bead because it makes it look a little weird. It's definitely kind of a different way to do this, but I needed to add some weight to this bait to allow it to sink how I want it, so I'll be able to fish it. And I'm going to go pretty far down. This is the point where you don't want to let go of your latex unless you like to do things twice. If you want the practice, this is a good time to let go. So I just get maybe one more. I just kind of hold it with my finger because I don't like to waste this stuff because it's expensive. So I'm just going to hold that, and I'm going to get my thread back and reeled up and tie this bad boy off. I got to be really careful with my eye. I don't tie a ton of baits. I tie a ton of jigs, you know, summer jigs and stuff. You don't have to worry about crowding the eye. And then I tie a ton of winter stuff, but I always have a bead on, and so you can't crowd the eye. And I found myself with small stuff like this, I end up crowding the eye quite a bit just because I don't have, I'm going to kind of cord up my thread. And I'll just come right back over that with a couple tight wraps. I'm going to get that trimmed off, and then I'm going to half hitch it. Just had a little tiny bit left, and I'm going to half hitch this just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. So now I'm ready for my ostrich. So what I'm going to do is obviously the legs are on the bottom. I don't want these legs all over the place. And there's been a couple different ways I've done this, and the easiest way I've found, so I'm just going to kind of bring this around, and with my fingers I'm just going to pinch it right underneath my eye. And I'm going to come up and wrap it right there, right under my eye, and you can kind of see that gap. Well, when I wrap my monofilament, it's going to push that stuff up to where I want it. So now I can grab my mono and I can start wrapping that. And I'm going to end up leaving maybe a couple little fibers at the front. I didn't put any partridge or anything like that on the front of these. The other ones I'm going to show at the end I did. I'm going to get this first wrap right. You just want to wrap them right on kind of where it overlaps. But you don't have to be perfect with this. Again, sometimes you want a bait that looks wonky, but I'm just going to put these right on here. And again, with those beads, it can be a little bit tricky to see them on there. That one right there. And I'm wrapping these a little bit tight just to kind of push that latex down. And I'll get one more right there by the head. And I'm going to bring my other thread over. This can be a little bit tricky, but you just go slow. I've just found that if you just go slow, everything usually works out decently. So I got to get this monofilament tied off, maybe just 3 wraps, and I can bring it to my left hand and just wrap on it a couple times, and then I can trim that off and keep moving. So now I've got my legs, you can kind of see, and there's plenty of them. I mean, I could put 6 ostrich herls on this and have a ton of legs, but again, I just don't want too much going on, because really, from what I saw, they didn't have an excessive amount of all this stuff. So I'm just gonna kind of fold this back, this ostrich back, and I'm just gonna trim it that. And then really, I can just carefully get in here. I didn't crowd my eye. I can get in here and whip finish this off. I'm just gonna do 3 turns. I don't want to add too much of a head here. And now the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna, avoiding my legs, I'm gonna put down, this is Solares Bone Dry. I'm just gonna cover it all up. Get as close to those legs as I can without actually getting them. And then I'm gonna take a little bodkin and I'm just gonna kind of spread that around to make sure that I got all the little nooks and crannies. Again, I just don't want to get my legs because it's just going to cause them to stick together, and I don't want that. And I'll zap this bad boy. And it'll cure really quick. I mean, this is just a super thin layer of bone dry. And I really like how these are turning out. I really love a really realistic looking bait. But just looking online, they can be some of the really cool ones. They're really cool to look at, but they're really hard to tie. So I didn't add this gray wire to this one. I added it to this one, and this one I put partridge too down on it. And drop a comment below. I don't know how well you can see that. Maybe I can get my light a little closer. So this one I added the UTC gray small. And I really liked it, but it kind of stands out a lot more. And so drop a comment below if you like the partridge, if you like the UTC. This one's the one you just watched me tie. All gray, that's all I saw when I was looking in the lake. So all gray, even like a super pale gray. This is even darker than what I was seeing. But Junior's Fishing Company, like and subscribe. Drop a comment below which one you like. We'll see you in the next one.